Okay, so I did a poll and you guys asked me which pop star you wanted me to defend, and somehow Demi Lovato didn't win. Halsey did. So without further ado, I'm gonna start my video. Ashley Nicolette Frangipani, aka Halsey, is no stranger to controversy. Over the years, there have been numerous videos, articles, and tweets made about her. It's kind of her brand at this point, if we're gonna be honest. I'm gonna tackle some of the reasons I think Halsey is disliked by the general public and give some honest rebuttals. Just before I start, I want to clarify that I actually now enjoy Halsey's music sometimes. Seeing her evolve as an artist and towards where she is now has actually been a surprise for me. I generally thought that after Badlands, she was going to remain a relatively niche artist, but then Closer happened and she actually managed to ride the momentum. Let's get into it. One of the biggest criticisms I saw early on in her career, and most of these criticisms apply to her very early career, is her being a Tumblr girl. Early Halsey, looking back, epitomized the stereotypes of Tumblr girls, from dyed hair to being woke to being way too open about her personal life and being more aesthetic than substance. From the perspective of a pop stan and someone who actually tries to understand the general public, I kind of got why she turned people off. First impressions definitely do matter, especially in the pop game. Your first era actually dictates to the general public exactly who you are. And Tumblr Girl in 2015 works, but it's not necessarily a sustainable strategy. For those of you who don't remember, her first single to properly chart was New Americana, and it didn't help that image either. Charting at 60, it was a minor success, but definitely a little bit cringy looking back. Let's just look at the lyrics. This is one of the most millennial songs ever, but in the worst way possible. Halsey would later disown the song, claiming that she actually got burnt out of performing it. Honestly, I always thought it was a little bit way too performative, it tried a little too hard, but it did its job. My rebuttal for the whole Tumblr Girl aesthetic is that at the end of the day, we actually cannot deny the fact that this aesthetic had worked for her. It gave her her initial fandom, which extremely matters when you're building out your career. Badlands, the record that she dropped in 2015, actually debuted at number 2 on the Hot 200 and was later certified double platinum. It's been about 5 years since the record drop, and there's actually some fair nostalgia for it. I recall that on its 5th anniversary, it actually trended on Twitter. One actual criticism that I consider relatively valid, though it's a subjective matter, would be her use of what people have started to call cursive singing.
Welcome to my kitchen. We have bananas and avocado.
It's actually a fairly common criticism of pop artists who would just have that voice that so happens to sound like that Vine that I just played. The common argument is that the entire industry is very saturated with people who just sound like that, honestly. And it's actually become somewhat of a joke that they mispronounce words and say loive instead of love. It's an emerging trend and honestly, in some regards, a dialect. But it's also a fair criticism to make. What exactly makes Halsey so unique compared to other artists that sound that way? Music, luckily, is very subjective. If you can't stand the sound of someone's voice, you just turn it off, you can't help it. My rebuttal is I want to posit a few theories, excuses as to why people sing with this voice. For one, they don't actually have proper vocal training. Traditional vocal coaches would not stand for this style of singing. Another thing we have to consider is that this may have been the way that they learned how to sing. This is the voice that they are accustomed to in the studio. This is the one that they're comfortable singing like. This is the one that they want to hear their voices mastered in. It's their artistic choice. They may think that singing this way actually underscores an emotion or an energy that they just think needs to go with the instrumental. Indie girl voice has actually been around since the early 2000s. So perhaps they think that they're following in the footsteps of people that they idolized when they were younger, and heck, even the guys are starting to sing like this. And again, we can't really ignore the fact that there is likely a market for this style of singing. Like, there's a reason why artists continue to sing this way and make money and chart. While some of these artists fade out over time, Halsey herself has actually stood the test of time. And that could be owed to maybe her lyrics being a certain energy that people just want to prescribe to, or her own personal charisma. We don't know. It's so unpredictable. But the criticism of cursive singing is so unique to me in that it's rooted in such a level of subjectivity. I would like to discuss it in another video sometime in the future. One of the things that I've seen people hold against Halsey are shenanigans that she pulled when she was younger before her fame. Everybody has skeletons in their closet, especially famous people. Everyone was cringy when they were teenagers. Heck, some of you 20-somethings who watch my channel are pure cringe. Heck, sometimes honestly I think I'm cringe, but Halsey's no exception to the rule. One of the most infamous clips of her from her younger days is this video of her singing Blink 182 at the mall. Like, it's a fun if not awkward moment for her. You can just tell that she's generally giving it her all in front of the Limited at her local mall. There's like a plucky energy to her that kind of hints that she wants to be a star in the future. I'm gonna be honest here, if you have the balls to sing in public, you're either going to become a star or a psychopath, or maybe both, who knows. Is she doing well in the video? Not really. It's not her best vocal performance, but if it was her best vocal performance, she wouldn't have a career. The other clip that I'm going to mention right now, I'm sure every Swiftie knows about. This is the I Knew You Were Trouble parody about Harry Styles and Taylor Swift's past relationship. I definitely understand the animosity that Swifties had towards Halsey, but we have to understand that when she released this, she was a Tumblr teen. The undertones of this are definitely a little bit hypocritical when she's purportedly a woke feminist, since there's a lot of slut-shaming in the song, but one thing that we're not going to do is pretend that Better Than Revenge never happened. While Halsey never publicly apologized for the videos, which honestly she'd want to probably forget, just last year in 2019, Halsey was one of the first people to speak out in favor of Taylor Swift during the Scooter Braun Masters debacle. She used her growing platform to speak out against unfair business practices that hampered the music industry at large when she didn't have to. They're not even on the same label, so that was really out of kindness in her heart and respect for Taylor Swift. The last major criticism that I see about Halsey that I am going to tackle today is that she always seems to be trying too hard. Early on in her career, Halsey really tried to make her mark. All artists have to go out of their way to differentiate themselves, and Halsey really tried to push this narrative that she's not like the other pop girls very early on. It was always like, I'm alternative, not pop, despite being clearly pop. But I definitely want to touch upon the try-buy controversy that she faced in her career. Sometime in 2015, she had an interview with the New York Times just to celebrate Badlands and her career finally taking off, and she labeled herself as a try-buy, which meant biracial, bisexual, and bipolar. She would go on to dismiss and disavow the label just 1 year later, and this label caused her some problems with the media and with fans and with detractors. On one hand, it's always great to be proud of who you are, to ground yourself in the identities that formulate your art and really differentiate you from the rest of your peers. But on the other hand, there is such thing as being perhaps too TMI, and being TMI at the start of your career can really hurt you and hurt your image, even if you mean to do some good by it. I think trying too hard or accusing women of trying too hard in the popscape is such an unfair accusation, depending on what parameters we're going by. Like, is she trying too hard by being herself, or is she trying too hard by promoting too much? Like, it's hard to define trying too hard as a criticism. And it's something that I'm guilty of as well. I'm just going to circle to the big overall defense I have for Halsey, particularly in regards to how she handled her early career. Artists seldom ever get their image right on the first try. The image that Halsey was going for at the time was topical. It was a byproduct of the times that she was emerging from. People outgrow being awkward. That is the main thesis of my argument. I'm not actually like criticizing her business acumen because it worked. She hasn't outright tanked yet. She's had longevity for a career that I didn't anticipate lasting this long, and I look forward to seeing where she goes after Manic. Being able to shed off the artificial layers that the label created for you is a part of the artist journey that we all strive to see our faves do. Halsey may not be one of my faves. She might not even be in my top 5 artists, but I have enjoyed seeing where she's gone so far, and I look forward to seeing what happens next. Thanks for tuning in. I had fun researching and revisiting parts of Halsey's careers and her criticisms. Comment what your thoughts are on Halsey now, if you weren't a fan back then, if you changed your mind, if you hate her now. I want to hear your opinions, and I want to comment back at you guys. Also, let me know who's next. Who do you want me to defend? Who do you want me to go to the ground for? Thanks again to my members. I love you guys so much, and I will see you next video. Follow my socials. Check out my Twitch. I stream every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday every week. We just talk about music. We just hang out. We vibe. Sometimes I sing badly. Sometimes I cringe at myself the day afterwards. Just check it out.